The country needs to know about it. The planet needs to know about what has taken place. And we've been lied to. I say this over and over. We've all been lied to for a minimum of 6,000 years. We're going to have to step back our thinking here to the people on this planet.
Okay.
They don't know there's extraterrestrials.
Yeah.
They don't know that there's not just one of them. Maybe we've got thousands. Maybe we got billions of extraterrestrials. The latest number, just recently, we doubled the number again. We now have 200 trillion galaxies out there.
Bobby Ray Inman, was he alive then? I don't even know.
He was just a kid then.
So he wasn't.
But Bobby Ray Inman later on became the #1 admiral.
Still is.
Yeah. But I'm just saying, for 26 years, he ran with the ball.
Right.
Okay?
Yes.
He knew what he was talking about. So they watched this event, and they immediately structured and organized this group of people, pulling in all of the top scientists they could pull them in, put them inside a secret area, inside of an aircraft company. He put this organization together, which ended up being a major organization later on studying extraterrestrial and is still studying it.
So are you saying that was the beginning of MJ-12?
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Carrie Cassidy from Project Camelot, and I am here today with a very honored guest. Actually, I should say guest, but Michael Schratt is joining us, and he's going to be helping to ask some good questions to our very honored guest. And this is Bill Tompkins, and he is a phenomenal individual and a very courageous individual. And it's rare when you get someone like this who will come forward and tell the truth. And we've been waiting a long time for this, let me say that. So Michael Schratt is an aerospace historian, and very happy that he's here with us today. He has a very thorough background in aerospace history, and so that's going to be a lot of help. Actually, you may disagree with me, but I think you might be the first witness to come forward in the area of the secret space program, black projects, and who is actually, in a sense, sanctioned, being backed up by a section of the military, I would say. Now, I don't know if you'd see it like that. I certainly know you're backed up by the Nordics. But I'm talking earthly civilization here. And I think in that case, maybe the Navy is behind bringing you forward. But I don't know if you're actually willing or even able to elaborate on that. But go ahead.
Well, actually, it's sort of a situation where I'm still involved with the Navy, and I'm actually having to participate in naval programs. So I'm going to discuss as much as I can. You're going to hit me with some questions, and I won't be able to answer. So I think the easiest way to just start this is to go back to 1942. Actually, for whatever reason, I was selected by some people in the Navy, Naval Intelligence, to essentially be assigned a program to discuss the U.S. Navy secret space operators who have been operating in Germany, trying to understand the tremendously complicated agreement between the SS and the Draco reptilian group who were assisting Germany. So this had actually gotten started much earlier with a very lovely young lady in Germany who was contacted by Nordic people to essentially get her friends to develop the necessary requirements to build a large space transport, get their friends and the family to join into this, and essentially leave the planet and go to another star's planetary system.
And this is Maria Orsich.
That's correct. And so she actually was doing this from like the late 20s, 1930s. And it ended up in the studies that I got involved in with the information from the operatives, Navy operatives, coming back from Germany into Admiral Ricobata's secret conference room at the top building, Naval Air Station San Diego. He's commander, Naval Air Station San Diego, but he has a hobby, okay? And this hobby is roughly 28, 29 naval operatives who in 1942 and possibly early in 41 were continually going back to Germany and studying all over the different research organizations what it was that the agreement had actually been made with Hitler, the SS, and the Draco reptilian people.
Okay, but if this is happening in 41 or 42, the war is not over.
The war is still on. But this young lady that we're talking about had been contacted by Nordic people to help her get an organization together with a great deal of extraterrestrial assistance to design a propulsion system, design a vehicle large enough to carry 40,000, 50,000 people, get in this vehicle and leave the planet. Now the SS was not aware of this. When they found out about this, they took over a group of 1,442 people, which included scientists, it included shoe salesmen, it included farmers, it included top research technicians. All these people were contacted by the Nordic extraterrestrials to assist people in Germany to get a vehicle built. So now we have a whole lot of civilians, nothing to do with the military, and with absolutely no desire to have the military involved in this extraterrestrial event. Okay? Real important. When the SS found out what they were doing, they took over everything that she had structured and organized, all 1,443 people. They had been hawking their farms. They had been getting everything they could possibly get in the way of money to design and build massive-size spacecraft transports. That's not what the SS wanted. So they took over this facility, and they jumped in and grabbed everything. After only 2 months, Hitler made the decision, let her and her organization go ahead with what they're doing. We're going to be working with the Draco reptilian group. So now we have 2 groups that we can get, and we can cut into them anytime we want. We can take it over again anytime that it was necessary. So actually, they allowed the second time for this group to design and build these spacecraft transports, with which many of them later on, even during the war and after the war, to leave the planet. Some of them went out and came back. They actually had large facilities that they utilized as in underground facilities in Antarctica. The Draco reptilian people had 2 enormous caverns. And I don't want to get off into that subject now. We can talk about it later. But there are caverns all over this planet which different extraterrestrial civilizations have been using, yes, okay, for thousands of years. Mm-hmm. Now, back to the SS. What the operatives found was an unbelievable series of situations that literally, when they gave their briefings to Admiral Ricabata, we also have one at least of 3 other Navy captains in his office at the time of this briefing to sort of set the stage for this.
Okay, can I get the year that they did the briefing with Ricabata?
1942.
Still during the war?
Still during the war.
Incredible. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, Admiral Ricabata, well, there was a large table. The operative sat on the other side of the table. Admiral Ricabata sat here, I sat next to him, and one of the 3 Navy captains sat next to me. The typist sat at the end of the table. That's the only people that were in there. We always had the same people. Essentially, all of these meetings, all of these disclosure meetings took place at night. The Admiral's aide would wake me up, sleeping in my barracks. He tapped me on the shoulder, and all he said was, "He's here." He escorted me across the facility over to this tall building, which is the command center at Naval Air Station San Diego. There's a small office near the top of this. That's where these disclosure meetings took place. So these operatives then brought back this information, which is, even Admiral Ricabata said, "I don't believe one word you're saying, young man." That came up over and over.
Okay, can I ask you the name of the other Navy captain, or are we not to know who that is?
Actually, I have to say I can't remember it right now, so that gets me out of it. Okay.
Yeah. All right.
But I really don't remember.
Okay.
Okay. But these operatives themselves didn't believe some of the information that they had to bring back, and so all they tried to do as best they could is present a package of information. Some of it even had manuals, okay? Some of the manuals were in hieroglyphics. All of the manuals were in German. Then they had photographs taken inside of research facilities in Germany. They had photographs of UFOs. They had photographs of maintenance people working on UFOs. They had photographs inside of the UFOs.
Okay, now I want to ask you something, because these operatives, you're calling them operatives, were these regular human beings, and how were they getting access to Germany at this time to get this information? Was this something that they were allowing the Americans to have? What was the relationship?
Okay, basically,
were they spies?
All of these young men were either lieutenant JGs or full lieutenants in the Navy's intelligence. These people were all American-German family people. All of these fellows knew Germany. They even knew all the accents in different areas in the surrounding countries. These are beautiful guys who were dedicated themselves to be essentially spies for the U.S. Navy. Okay. Now, this was totally unaware with the Air Force. All right. Everything that I'm talking about is on the Navy side of what took place way back then. Right. Okay? So these operatives would bring back photographs of the different vehicles. They would bring back data, sometimes documents, all in German, and or some of it in what was then considered to be the closest thing was to be essentially hieroglyphics that we found later on underneath the pyramids. Okay? So that's the best description I can give you of what some of the data was. Obviously, this was information that was not given to Germany by extraterrestrials using English language, where otherwise many meetings that took place later on with extraterrestrials, they could give you the information in 10 or 20 different languages. But that's not what we got, okay? So they would actually attempt to tell this panel everything that they were able to find and what was most important. And we then would take that information, and I had 11 or 12 young ladies who could take this information, which the first girl typed, run copies of, and then put together different, what they called packages, which essentially were proposals, okay? These proposals then were then to be disseminated around the United States in secret facilities. Now, I want to make one point very clear here. Actually, what was on the Rinse radio program last night was a document that actually was put together later at Douglas, because Douglas got one of these packages. I personally took it to Santa Monica Douglas as one of the first of 4 top, not aerospace, aircraft companies, which became aerospace later on. Remember, everything that we're talking about here, I don't know how to make this clear. You're trying to decipher, you're trying to understand, not just other extraterrestrial people information, but everything that you're getting is totally unreal to every single PhD on the planet. I have to say, people don't realize what took place in 1942 in the Naval Air Station at San Diego. This is unbelievable. And it's not just a statement of unbelievable. You couldn't understand it. When the documents were then taken, and I had to use one of the 2 airplanes that Admiral Ricabata had. He had a twin-engine Lockheed Electra, which we used to fly back in the eastern part of the country to laboratories and naval bases. And then he had a 7-passenger high-wing single-engine plane, which we flew to Douglas and into Lockheed, out on the desert to the Navy facilities out there. So we put together rough information, and I want to try to explain what that information was. All it consisted of was a typed version of what the operative said, copies of that. Okay. Some documents, some photographs, some written notes. Like there might be as many as 30 pages of written notes that the operative would give to the admiral. Okay, now I'm going to stop you there and ask you, Ricabata and yourself, can we get a little background on why you 2 guys were so instrumental in this process? Now, I know something about you from reading your book, and I want to highly recommend his book. It's fascinating. But I do want to share with the audience here, Ricabata, you told me on the phone, I think you said he was Australian and he wasn't trained in America. Is that right? Yes, and you're asking a very important question, okay, what you're asking. It's extremely important. We're going to have to step back our thinking here to the people on this planet.
Okay.
They don't know there's extraterrestrials.
Yeah.
They don't know that there's not just one of them. Maybe we've got thousands. Maybe we've got billions of extraterrestrials. The latest number, just recently, we doubled the number again. We now have 200 trillion galaxies out there. And to say that we're the only intelligent people in this universe is naive. But the people on this planet were tremendously naive. They had no idea what these naval operatives brought back to what essentially was my delivering of these packages to the 4 top airplane companies, because there wasn't aerospace. Now, back to your specific question. Who was Admiral Ricabada? He was born in Australia. He came to the United States, went to school, joined the Navy as a third-class seaman. He worked his way up. Now, what's extremely important about this is that my mission statement working for Admiral Ricabada was as disseminator of advanced aircraft research. Okay? That was my mission statement working for Admiral Ricabada was a copy of 80% of his statement, who was written by the Secretary of the Navy, Forrestal. Okay? The Nordics contacted Forrestal. I'm saying this, you don't believe it, this is what happened. They contacted Forrestal and had Forrestal selected to initiate this whole thing in the U.S. Navy. Then Forrestal selects an Australian man, 2-star Admiral Ricabada, to be the one person to disseminate this data that our Navy intelligence found out what was going on in Germany. And this is staggering because at that time, people don't realize that there's more than one admiral in the Navy. At that time, there was 43 because there's so many areas that need support. Secretary of the Navy, Forrestal, selected a man who never went to Annapolis. Listen to what I'm saying. Every PhD on this planet, whether they're for science or for medicine, have been given incorrect information for thousands of years about the history of this, not just this galaxy, the universe. They had been given information which was controlled by Draco, Reptilian, and other extraterrestrials not to know what was really going on. So every book in every university on this planet had misinformation about every field, every technical field you can come up with. Okay?
Yes.
So when the operatives had to carry this out, they were not asked to study these packages. They were directed to study these packages. These weren't requests for proposal. This was a demand factor that this information that got typed up and the information in these packages to all of these research universities, to all of the top Navy laboratories, the facilities out at China Lake, the underground facilities at China Lake, Caltech. Actually, I didn't take the first package to Caltech in Pasadena. I took their first package to the underground facilities out on the desert called China Lake. and it's just north of the Air Force facilities off of Highway 395 out in the desert in California.
Right.
And I'm saying people don't understand or realize or gasp. They don't get what has happened. And I'm not trying to build a story here. All I'm trying to say is, hey people, hey you guys, everybody that's listening to this program, okay? You people have been told for a minimum of 6,000 years total incorrect information. From medical, from science, from history, from astronomy, from mathematics, you name it. Everything you've told.
Yes.
I
really appreciate you. Yes.
This is a lie.
I hear you. It's great. Can I ask you one thing about these operatives who went into Germany to get this information? Did they, we know there were spies from your description, but so they were undercover, so to speak.
Yes.
And they must have seen the craft with their own eyes as well.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So in some cases they were working on the craft even.
They actually got on board, got inside.
All right.
They took photographs inside, stuck them in some place, and managed to be part of the package that was delivered to Admiral Ricabada.
Incredible. Now, what do you think? First of all, you're telling me Forrester had contact, and his contact was with the Nordics. They chose him. But was Ricabada in contact? Or you said he sat there and just shook his head and said, I don't believe you. So he was not a person who had had any contact himself.
You're referring to Admiral Ricabada?
Yes.
To me, he was selected, period, by the Secretary of the Navy over all of the standard admirals who had been educated in Annapolis.
Because he had an open mind.
He had a mind that would not have been controlled by the misinformation that every university on the planet has given.
Was that your personal take on him when you met him?
No, not when I met him. Later on, this was obvious, okay? But then, who's Billy Tompkins? Why did who selected Tompkins to be on this committee?
Right.
Because I get pulled out of high school in the first year, halfway through the first year, the Navy pulls me out and puts me through boot camp. And then my orders say, report to Commander so-and-so, Naval Air Station San Diego. I'm only saying, I don't have a doctor's in these degrees that are required for all of these studies. Right. I don't have. Right. But then, my mind wasn't clouded with misinformation like the Admiral. Okay?
Okay, but to get back to you, and this, we've got this setting of this conference table, and you're sitting next to Ricabada, and eventually you deliver out all these packages around what becomes the secret space program, but the American. And did you take some to Britain?
No. I only took facilities to United States secret facilities.
All right.
Now, right away, I want to hit you with this, and this is important.
Okay.
Even the document that was on Rinse Radio last night, it's a Douglas document that was put together inside the secret think tank at Douglas, where I went to work many years after the Navy, okay? Because I worked for Northrop and other people. But when I got into Douglas, they put me in this secret think tank. So that document is called, it's a big thick thing, and it has the Douglas logo on the front of it, and it's called Unconventional Propulsion Schemes, okay? And it doesn't have a confidential stamp on it. It doesn't have a secret stamp on it. Everything that we took, I took. I flew in the airplane, in the Admiral's airplane, to Lockheed, to Naval Air Development Center, Warminster, Pennsylvania. I flew to all the top secret facilities. not one document that was given had classified in any way given to them. Everybody knew it was way above top secret.
Yes.
No document was stamped.
I hear you. Yeah, and I had heard that on one of the other shows. So the idea being that if it wasn't stamped, people wouldn't notice it. They wouldn't make a big deal of it.
Yes.
It would just pass through hands. If anyone whose eyes caught sight of that document accidentally, they wouldn't see it,
Yeah.
so to speak.
But it's an interesting way to handle the most classified
Yes.
subject on the planet.
Absolutely. Well, actually quite ingenious, really. So, again, but I want to get back to you because here you are. You're a kid at this point. I mean, right out of high school?
I'm 18 now.
18. Okay, so you're 18 years old, but they've chosen you. I assume Forrestal and the Nordics chose you. Did you already have contact with the Nordics before you went into this program?
Okay, let's go back to February 1942. Okay?
Okay.
They call it the Los Angeles sighting. What took place, actually, my mom was back east, and my dad, my brother, and I had rented a large apartment in Long Beach and California. And this was in a large home that had been broken into 4 apartments. So the second floor actually is 30-foot ceilings down below. So the second floor then is real high.
Okay.
And all the way across the back of this house, it's only 4 blocks from the ocean in Long Beach. All the way across the back is a great big balcony deck. So at about 5:30 in the evening one day in 42, my dad says to my brother and I, who were laying on the floor looking at the newspaper and the magazines, get up and come back here to the deck. So we get up and go out to the deck, and here's this spot, a little spot, okay, just above the trees and just above the rooftops, okay, of the houses that prevent us to see the ocean from this area.
Okay.
So we're standing there looking at this, and all of a sudden, out of this spot of light came a little beam. And it went like that, sort of about that 60 degrees. And we watched that. Then this beam went straight like this, hit the back of the house, lit up all of the trees, lit up the back, the roofs of all the houses, everything was lit up. And we went back, hit the wall, and then go forward and grab the railing. Okay? It was gone. It was gone. Okay? So we went back, we had dinner, listened to a show on the radio, went to bed. At about 1:30 that night, all of the anti-aircraft guns started firing. We get up, we run outside, and we look at this great big thing. At arm's length, it was that big. It was parked at about 8,000 feet. I'd been a Navy pilot, flew almost everything that the Navy had. I knew what the altitude was. I knew what this thing was. There was 8 searchlights on the bottom of this vehicle. Bang, bang, bang. All these shells were bursting on the bottom of this vehicle on a continuous basis for an hour and 30 minutes. Just parked right there. Now, all around it, above it, different vehicles were coming. This lasted...
This is the Battle of L.A. you're describing.
This is the Battle of Los Angeles, okay?
But at that time, you were still a kid, right?
Yeah.
So you hadn't been a Navy pilot yet.
No.
But now, later on, you were able to remember what you saw and know that it was these...
I knew what the altitude was. I somehow knew this altitude, okay?
Oh, really?
Yes. And later on, I did. I flew almost every plane that the Navy had.
So the craft that you said because there's a newspaper picture. I don't know if that's really the real thing.
The newspaper was not a good demonstration of what took place.
All right.
Now, what I'm trying to say in evaluating what happened in this sighting, you have to visualize dozens and dozens and dozens of different shaped vehicles. This great big one parked right above you, right over Long Beach, okay? Everybody is outside looking at this and watching it. There's vehicles going on both sides of it, there's vehicles above it, and several times, actually the vehicle went underneath and the anti-aircraft gun lights, the searchlights, shined on them and followed them. So this goes on till about 2:30. We get bored. We all go back to bed. Okay? We get bored.
Well,
hold on. Just wait a minute. Hold on. Okay? We get bored.
Yeah.
Now, while this is happening, and it goes on until 5 o'clock in the morning, many of the other people outside, okay, outside watching this from the street, stayed up all night long.
Yeah.
Okay, but
better than a movie.
Okay, no, wait a minute. Listen. Now, on the other side of your planet, at this same time, the Germans were bombing London.
Oh, wow.
Oh my gosh. Holy cats! This is February 1942.
Right.
Okay. Now, we got bored and went to sleep. Now, I want to make a very important point about the Los Angeles event, the sighting.
Okay.
Nobody got scared. Nobody got nervous. Nobody ran in the house and jumped with the covers over their head, okay? Everybody watched this thing. Nobody got sick. Nobody got real sick, died. There weren't anything of that. The only people that were killed in this were from our own shrapnel. Now, people watched this same sighting, we found out later, from Santa Barbara. People watched it from San Diego.
Sure.
This is a massive group of vehicles. Now, listen to this analysis. You got to tell me. There's only two ways this could accomplish what was going on. One, the extraterrestrials' vehicle come in over the ocean, okay? Hundreds of them. They go all over Los Angeles. They go to they go to the telescope on Mount Wilson. They make a turn. They either go north or they go south. They fly out to sea, they turn around out over the ocean, and they come back to make you think there's a whole lot more vehicles there than actually there is. They either had to do that, or we watched thousands of vehicles come in over western United States from 1:30 to almost 5 o'clock.
Mm-hmm. And they shot at them and weren't able to hit them or destroy them in any
The
way?
shells burst on the bottom of them. They're not bursting on the bottom. There's an electromagnetic shield that the shell hits and it blows up, but it doesn't do any damage. Now, yes, we did shoot down 2 small ones, which were not occupied. One of those went in the ocean only a half a mile off the Rainbow Pier in Long Beach. Your Navy picked that up. So your Navy had an extraterrestrial vehicle in February of 1942.
Okay, so that's before the operatives came back with the information. Because you said in 1942 they had...
Okay. This took place just before I was contacted, pulled out of high school, thrown over to Naval Air Station, North Island. Okay? Mm-hmm. What this says is that a whole lot of people who were involved in this sighting immediately knew there were extraterrestrials. Now, I want to take this a little further. People who watched this sighting, and this is not, there's documents that prove it, but they haven't been released. Two Navy admirals, two Army Air Corps generals, and an individual whose name is Donald Douglas Sr. Those 5 people were in meetings that evening. They were still in meetings. They watched this whole thing. They watched everything. And bang, extraterrestrials. No cover-up. They're real, okay? So those fellows got together.
Okay.
Just a second. Douglas then put this group together, the 2 admirals, the 2 Army generals, Air Force generals,
Okay.
and they put together a group of people and initiated a secret think tank inside of Douglas, actually within 1 week of the sighting.
Yeah, that's fabulous.
And so, you know, we talk here that this is February 42, 1951, I went to work for that secret think tank inside of Douglas. I had been working for Northrop for 2.5 years. I worked for North American for a short time. I worked for Lockheed for a short time. And then somebody telepathically told me I need to leave Lockheed and I need to go to work over in Santa Monica at Douglas. I didn't read a document that said do that.
Okay.
So I went over and applied for a job as a draftsman. Okay, I'm sorry, not a draftsman, as a model builder of metal wind tunnel models. Okay? Because remember, I had built a group of models over quite a number of years.
Yes.
But I still, I mean, I want to make sure that we have this, the LA sighting, the LA Battle of LA, because that was so amazing. And this is even prior to Roswell.
Yes.
Okay. And in essence, are you able to say who those other people are? Because you said Douglas is one of them. But the other admirals and generals that were in that meeting, that small meeting, watching all of this, who then put the secret think tank together, who they were? Is one Curtis LeMay? I mean...
Yes.
Okay. Bobby Ray Inman, was he alive then? I don't even know.
He was just a kid then.
So he wasn't.
But Bobby Ray Inman later on became the #1 admiral.
Still is.
Yeah. But I'm just saying, 26 years he ran with the ball.
Right.
Okay.
Yes.
He knew what he was talking about.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. So, okay, but did you know the Battle of LA is going on? But at the same time, did any of the ETs in that craft? I mean, and do you know which ETs were doing this? Was it the Nordics? Did any of them, you know, teleport down to meet anybody? Was there any reported encounters during
let's go back.
hours?
Let's go back to Douglas Sr., 2 Navy admirals and 2 Army Air Corps generals in a meeting. Okay, they had been in meetings all day long. They were still in meetings.
Right.
Because it's only 7:30. I mean, come on. So they watched this event, and they immediately structured and organized this group of people pulling in all of the top scientists they could pull them in, put them inside a secret area, inside of an aircraft company. Douglas Sr. did this, so you got to give him credit for this. Now later on we had a lot of problem with his son in there because he didn't know what was going on. But Sr. was brilliant. He put this organization together, which ended up being a major organization later on studying extraterrestrial and is still studying it.
So are you saying that was the beginning of MJ-12?
Yeah.
In a word, yeah. Excellent. Yeah. Okay. Was Forrestal one of the admirals?
No.
In that meeting?
No.
Was Rickenbacker?
No.
So, are you able to tell me the other players in that room? What we know the beginning of MJ-12, actually. We know some of these players. Vannevar Bush?
No. I just assumed sort of sidestep that.
Carmen? Yeah. I could go on.
Yeah. Okay, I just assumed.
All right, fine.
Kept
no
that
problem.
one side.
Okay, so we've got that. But you didn't answer my question. Was anyone having contact? Any high-level people contacting even before the event happened, in fact?
Okay. My understanding on this was that nobody came down, nobody talked to the people that were in these vehicles, but probably thousands of people telepathically got information, okay?
Okay.
So the bells were rung in hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people.
And you were one of them?
I just happened to be one of them, I think. I can't prove it, but somehow...
Well, I mean, this is a good time to ask you. I mean, are there other guys like you? Because you seem to be one of a kind.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of other people.
There's a lot of guys like you in this secret space program who were somehow contacted and have had special guidance and knowledge on how to build and what to do. Yeah?
Yes.
Others.
Yes.
And have you met them?
Really, I've only met three other individuals of what are probably hundreds. Okay.
Really?
And
they're all quiet to this day.
Yes. Now, I think one of the thrusts that you probably have, and that many people now are hoping that the disclosure information will get these people to come out and talk about their involvement.
Sure.
Okay?
Right.
That's what collectively we're all trying to do. Mm-hmm. Because there's many areas that I don't know about and that I was not involved in, which are extremely important. And those people working in this subject know this. And they're not just aerospace engineers. These are top physicists in universities, okay?
Okay.
And they're top designers in aerospace companies. And they've had the information put in their head too. But for whatever reason, almost everybody that knows the information has been in some way put in a position that either their family has been threatened, they have been threatened, and they don't want to talk.
Okay, well then before we go on, why are you able to come forward?
Okay.
Who gave you the green light?
Okay. I can't answer that. All I can say is that the easiest way for me to say what I'm saying is my association with 3 Nordic people in Douglas on the Apollo program. Okay? I worked with these guys, 2 young ladies and 2 really good-looking Nordic guy.
All right.
And so working with the 3 of them for 3.5 years on the Apollo program, who all three denied that they were Nordics. But everybody that was anybody in engineering knew they were. Okay? I never said they were. They never said they were. But if you can just try to visualize, I had 170 top engineers on the Apollo program working for me. Okay? I was engineering section chief at Douglas. I had, I guess, worked my way up. I come up with approaches and concepts, and I get these implemented by all my designers.
Yes.
Where did some of my ideas come from? I have this very nice-looking young lady who never stops kidding. It's fun to go to work. Mm-hmm. She never stops kidding. She's always sticking it in and turning it. And not just that, but she's always stuffing things in my head. Mm-hmm. So, like when I presented this complete redesign of the Apollo program to Dr. Von Braun and Dr. Davis at Redstone Arsenal, one of the most classified facilities on the planet. Yeah. I had a 6-foot by 6-foot model in a great big box put on the DC-7 to fly down to the Redstone Arsenal, okay? Yes. I rented a truck. There weren't inside or closed trucks available. The only one that they had just board sides on it. So here is this great big gray box that could be a nuclear bomb. I drive this thing, and I've never driven the gears on this in my life. I'm in a 3-piece business suit. I'm driving this truck with this bomb box
and you
in the
just
back.
Drive it onto the base or something,
and
right?
Wait just a second. Now, my secretary had told me before I left, I've typed you an authorization as an allowance to go on board the base, okay? You're never going to use it, okay? I said, you're gonna get on base and you're not going to have anybody bother you, okay? So yes, I'm driving this truck a long straight road to get to the gates of the base. And she said, I told you before, Billy, telepathically, I'm driving the truck, just keep going. So the gates open, okay?
So great.
Now, off on the right hand, wait a minute.
Great movie.
Yeah,
okay.
Off on the right-hand side is this massive parking area for all of these trucks, all of the people to get on base, go through the security checks. It's one of the most classified bases on the planet.
Sure.
And the doors open, the gate opens, and none of the 4 police guards at the office, they didn't pick up their rifles and come out and start shooting. Nobody did. The rifles just stayed by the front door where they stood.
But is this Nordic mind control?
Yes.
Is it?
Yes.
Okay.
So
what are you telling me? You're here because of Nordic mind control today? You know what I'm saying? I mean, is that what's happening? I mean, are these, top admirals who've been in this game now since 42 at least, are they letting you come here because they've been persuaded to do so, or because they've been mind controlled by Nordics to let you come?
Okay. I have to say, really, I don't know. And I really don't know.
I love that.
Okay?
That's awesome.
Okay?
That's awesome. I would say that that's probably how you got, actually, I didn't just mean here disclosing, but actually here talking to me, because I'm usually the most dangerous woman out there. I mean, to tell you the truth, that's my reputation. So somebody letting you talk to me, I mean, I know the Nordics are cool with me, so now I know why you're here, because...
You just answered it.
All right.
Okay?
Yeah.
Now, while we're still not believing the gates to open, I drive this truck through a massive base that's covered with trees. You can't see the sky, okay? You can't see where this tall building is that Von Braun's tower is.
Right.
I finally get to this. I drive right up. There's 3 levels of steps going up if you come as a guest. That you can go into the back and drive in the back and get in there. So, tell me why 4 security guards come down the steps carrying a big rectangular dolly with 4 wheels. Okay?
Yeah.
I haven't said anything to them. They come over to the truck,
Right.
I'm out of the truck. They take the boards off the side, lay them down on the concrete. They pick up this model and they put it on this dolly. Why was that dolly available?
Sure.
I'm asking.
Nordic mind control again.
Okay, so they carry this big box with the model in it, the Command Center for Launch of Apollo, which nobody in NASA knows even exists. Because remember, that's my concept of what you've watched on TV every time you watch an Apollo mission. That great big facility.
Well, we got a lot of questions
Yeah,
about that.
but just a second. Our contract on the S-4B stage of the Apollo, the command stage section, okay,
Right.
requires us to utilize a open hangar with doors on both ends of it to check out our facility, our stage, and then assemble it on top of a outside assembly area. Okay? This is insane because we've got the most advanced circuits that have ever been designed for the entire computerized operation of Apollo. Because remember, Germany was all mechanical. They did not use computers.
Even back in those days.
Back in those days. Now, this facility then has this massive outside structure where you assemble your stages on this, and it's 270 foot high, okay, out in the open, and then somebody lights the engine and we get the engines to operate and it lifts off. The checkout of everything is outside. The checkout of the facilities and every part of the whole program is out in an environment with the doors open in a hangar.
Okay, are you trying to tell me that because that it was somehow camouflaged and so people wouldn't look or couldn't see it, or?
No, I'm saying that our contract required us to do all of the assembly and checkout of our stage, which is the controlling stage of Apollo, in an open hangar in the worst atmosphere that we can do it on the planet. Because the humidity at this location
So why was it like that? I mean, was yours, are you saying you made a redesign from that? Or
I said to Dr. Debus and Dr. Von Braun in my briefing that I don't want that hangar that you want me to check my stage in. Well, first of all, you guys with the V2s in Germany, roughly 68% of the time when you check it out and then you lift it, there's problems. with your own V2s.
Yeah.
So I'm going to check out my vehicle, first of all, in an inside closed area in the vertical position. And I'm going to keep it in the vertical position till I pick it up and put it on top the lower stages.
Okay, but I want to know why, if the Nordics had this amazing technology and they were helping you and feeding you ideas for Apollo, why was Apollo so rudimentary? Is there a completely other Apollo that we never saw? Because we know that things happened on the moon once they got there, and you said, you know, and I want to talk about all that. But you know what I'm saying? In other words, you're still talking about this module that has, you know, is basically a rocket. You know, it's like a tin can. No. That's old technology. Why did they let the humans continue with that kind of a design?
They could do what you would say would be a partial assistance to a country, and maybe we say they used the United States. Okay? Now, the Germans had been playing with rockets, liquid rockets, for way before World War II, and even World War I, okay? So they have their command center, the launch center, underneath the ground with concrete above it in a silo, an underground launch silo with a periscope up on top. They can look through. I said, we're not going to do that. I not only want my vehicle checked out in the vertical position and assembled that way, but I'm not going to use your underground launch facility for my cabinets full of support, checkout, and launch equipment. I want a facility which will be a closed facility to assemble all of the stage and check them out. Okay? So my proposal to Debus and Dr. von Braun was build a vertical assembly building, people. Okay? Oh yes, it will be the biggest facility space-wise of any building on the planet. Who cares? This is what we need. I got from checking out the German V2s in Germany in a horizontal to a vertical and then encased in a white room. And actually, my proposal was a white room atmosphere.
Right.
Air-conditioned atmosphere. Because we were playing with advanced circuits and rocketry and communication systems that nobody had ever done. So the chance for something to go wrong was astronomical. And what I presented to Debus and von Braun was not just buildings, completely changed the whole checkout and launch at the Cape for production launches to the moon. Okay? So if you remember in that book, Selected by Extraterrestrials, there's a drawing in there that shows Cape Kennedy, Complex 39, and then a whole bunch of complexes all the way down this side for Launch Complex 39s, and then circles down here for these massive truck facilities to haul up all the equipment to build a 10,000-man naval base on the moon underground.
Okay, yes, but did this get built the way you wanted it to?
It finally did, yes.
Really?
The facility got built exactly the way the four major changes to the Apollo program came out of 170 guys in a engineering area called Launch Complex 39, which we designed at Douglas. Okay?
Okay, but you're still not, you didn't answer my question about the technology. So you're basically saying, because this is interesting, you're saying that the Nordics have some limitations in the way they help, in the way they interfere with planet Earth. Is that what you're kind of getting at?
Okay, you're getting complicated, your questions, but we have to step way back. Again, not really understood by the public, okay? Yes, there are Federation facilities out in the galaxy where other extraterrestrials get together, and there's many different missions for many different types of programs. But we'll talk about one of them, which cruises the galaxy, and it has as many as 30 different extraterrestrial civilization people on board. It looks like the moon, okay? But it's a planet. I mean, it's not a planet, it's a vehicle.
Right.
Okay. So this cruises the galaxy.
Is it a Dyson sphere or not?
The what?
Is it called a Dyson sphere?
That's one term, but actually, we're getting more complicated. I need to answer your question. When we got to the moon, we found out a lot of surprises, okay? The Draco reptilians were already there. And we knew because we had probes when we went, non-manned probes that we sent around the moon. So we knew there were a facility on the backside. We knew a whole lot that people didn't talk about. But we were in a position where this moon is not a moon, okay? It's not your moon in the first place. Actually, this is not your planet. This is their laboratory, okay?
Right. Okay, the Dracos, you mean, or the reptilians?
Draco reptilian / reptilian.
And I'm going to ask you what they all look like and all that, at some point.
Okay.
Because I know. Okay, let's get to when it was it Neil Armstrong landed on the moon, and he said that thing that you heard him say, and Michael wants to get real specific about this. So basically there were 7 huge craft there, and you said on one of the shows out there, you said that the reptilians actually showed up beneath their craft and they gave the finger.
Okay, they were parked around the side of the crater.
Yeah.
Okay, they were not parked on it, they were floating above it.
Okay, yeah.
So there were hundreds of these 9-foot reptilian guys standing with their legs.
Hundreds.
Yeah, they were all the way across the underneath their vehicles,
Okay,
standing
so
on the
9
crater.
feet, and what do they look like?
They're ugly looking, lizard, alligator type people. They got the same skin as the lizards got, okay? And terrible looking faces. But then they have the ability to shift and look like a human. All of them do, okay?
Okay, do you think von Braun was a reptilian?
No,
You really don't?
no.
Okay.
Your president, yes.
Oh, which one? George Bush Sr.? Yes.
Yeah.
Sure.
And Bill Clinton and this guy you got
Obama.
got rid of. Yeah.
Yeah,
They all were,
right.
okay? So, and they all have this ability to make themselves look like real good-looking people.
And you're saying Trump isn't one?
No, he's not, okay?
Well, that's a relief.
And, and he knows more about this subject than people realize.
Oh,
okay?
excellent.
But trying to get back to your earlier question, these groups of extraterrestrials who work together but are at war with other extraterrestrials, okay, have these vehicles that look like a planet,
Right.
like our moon is a vehicle. It's a command center for this arm. The easiest way to look at this is to put your arm out like this. And you be the center of the galaxy, all the way out to here. There's 4 arms on our galaxy. One of those arms has a place here which is called planet Earth. You're not downtown where all the action is in the galaxy. You're out here. You're in the area which galaxies, as they rotate, throw off. Okay? So you're sitting here on the tip, near the tip of the Milky Way galaxy, you, Earth. Okay? And what you need to do is visualize you are not Earth people. Okay? You are extraterrestrials, nice guys out there. Mm-hmm. So you know that this little planet is going to get thrown off. Maybe it'll take a couple of weeks yet, but eventually it's going to get thrown off. So
that's why this is happening.
This is why this is happening.
Okay.
And 2,000 years from now, we'll probably be picked up with another galaxy. We're just floating out there. And this goes back to the problem that we had before about the number of years that you can live. We'll talk about that later. But back to these command centers which operate throughout the galaxy to monitor bad guys and attempt to get them to back off.
So isn't Phobos one of them?
Yes. Okay. And so essentially we have nice guys in there and even some bad people in the same vehicle. And they discuss wars and disagreements and this sort of thing. But back in their own planetary part of the galaxy, they may be at war with 2 of the same guys that are in this together. So this is like a center of information, sort of like a group of people who are trying to get along for certain specifications or certain events. Those guys control your planet, your moon, because your moon is a command center for this region of the galaxy, not just the solar system. That's small potatoes, okay? The thing that's sitting right in here, which is you call your moon, okay, is a massive control center for this whole part of the Milky Way galaxy.
Okay, wow.
Wow. Wow is right.
Well, what about Saturn? I thought Saturn was more like that.
Saturn has large facilities on it too, but those are other agendas for other people, okay? Some of which we have, okay? Because we have mining companies. Let's take North American aviation.
Sure.
Los Angeles Airport. That's where North American aviation is, okay? And you've seen on my block diagrams that are in my book what systems engineering really is, what controls the secret think tanks, okay? Instead of a book or a document to do this, I came up with block diagrams. We have to have one of those. We're going to need one of these, and we're going to need this for just the start of the program. As we get into this, we're going to change the phases of it into 4 different phases: concept phase, definition phase, acquisition phase, and operational phase. So now that's a 10-foot long piece of paper that's a foot high, and it has every single block diagrams that are required to initiate that space program. Okay? Every single one is in there. So those documents then are used in different manners to develop ICBMs. So I came up with a concept for really space concept. The military then used those for development of ICBMs and other weapon systems. And the initiation of that is to understand our position on our association with extraterrestrials. That's what the block diagram is for. All these events that have to take place to interface with extraterrestrials.
What do you mean? Okay, that's very complex, what you just said.
It is very complicated.
So you're talking about yourself having a diagram, having been the person who creates a diagram, that the entire sort of maybe all the militaries are going to follow, that's going to diagram out our relationships with these with the rest of the ET
we've
races?
used what turned out later to be a standard requirement, this block diagram thing, for every weapon system that any of the military has, whether it's Air Force, Navy, Marines, doesn't make any difference. Your company designing whatever, go back to the Pentagon and you propose a weapon system. You're going to have to be, if you get that proposal, you're going to have to be controlled by this 375 document, which I came up with for the Apollo program, and I submitted that to Von Braun, and that was one of the 4 programs of changing the entire NASA program. Okay, so the first use of this was for ICBMs. I took that system and defined the entire Apollo program and the missions, because they had several missions. My group in the secret think tank came up with 44 separate missions extended to the year 2000, 1999. So the Apollo program was supposed to not just go to the moon, pick up the rocks, take the photographs, and come back. The Apollo program was to take us out into our solar system, build naval stations on every habitable planet or its moon, okay?
Right.
And then the next phase was to go to the 12 closest stars, Alpha Centauri being the first, put naval stations, bases on all of its planets, except we stopped that one because it had 2 suns and the radiation factor was not, we couldn't do it. But 11 other stars, the 11 closest stars to you, okay?
And you're saying it's been done?
And I'm saying that's what we plan on doing.
Okay, you planned starting with Apollo, and you planned
That is
up
the
to
Apollo mission.
1999.
No,
This was
that
your-
is the Apollo
Oh,
mission.
that's just Apollo. Okay. Did it happen?
No,
It got stopped, right?
yeah,
And it got stopped by the reptilians.
yeah, they said no.
Okay, now this diagram that you're saying, this block diagram that is the militaries are all following, it basically is, in a sense, your design initially. It came through you, but it must have been downloaded to you somehow from the Nordics,
Okay.
saying what Earth people were going to be allowed to do. Is
Yeah,
that what it's saying?
okay.
What kind of weapons they could or couldn't build?
It was not for weapons. It was for us, and actually that's in my book.
Right.
It was for us to go out into the galaxy. Everything that's necessary to build a transport or a vehicle. Go out in the galaxy, have communications with other extraterrestrials out there, and set up businesses with them.
Right.
Maybe we could mine stuff for them. Maybe we had certain materials they don't have. We could market these.
Okay.
They may have things that we want to buy. Set up communications with other civilization people out in the galaxy. That's what the first block diagram was for, and that's what the mission was to have originally been, what we recommended. Okay?
Yeah.
Now, yes, Nordics put that stuff in Billy Tompkins' mind, and he runs with this ball. Okay? But you've got it in the book. I mean, that's what our thrust was. It was not military. Then the military picks up this document, and they run with that of every military program anybody wants.
Okay, but when you say the military picked it up, I mean, here you are kind of almost embedded in the military. You're dealing with von Braun and Diebus. Now, they're Germans.
Yeah.
Okay? So there is some kind of interaction going on between still Germany, the U.S., and then Project Paperclip.
Yeah,
bringing
right.
over all the Nazi scientists.
Yes.
And at some point, we're being infiltrated. It's clear in your book that you, and especially your close friend that you worked with a lot, you used to talk in the dialogue of the book. You're always saying someone is interfering, someone is on a higher level trying to manage this situation.
Implement the situation.
Okay.
So you're having both white hat guys out there, okay, and we got black hat guys out there. And they're both influencing us.
And they still are.
They have their agendas.
And they still are, yes?
Yes.
Yeah.
As we're talking, they're still doing this.
Yes.
Okay? It hasn't stopped.
Okay, before we continue, and I want to take a short break, I'd let you drink some water. I don't want to leave this subject where Michael can ask his question, that he has, make sure that he got his question answered about, again, back to Neil Armstrong on the moon and the 7 huge craft and all the reptilians standing there. You wanted to ask a question.
Yeah.
So.
I just wanted to back up for just a quick second. When Bill talks about classified documents not being stamped, that's absolutely correct, because that is the procedure that Kelly Johnson followed at the Skunk Works in Burbank. When they were doing the F-80, the U-2 spy plane, the A-12, and the SR-71, none of those documents were stamped top secret. That was per Kelly Johnson, so you're absolutely correct about that.
Crazy, but yes, you're right. Yeah.
So, Bill, are we to believe then that you are the genesis of the vehicle assembly building at the Kennedy Space Center? You're the genesis for that idea?
Yeah, but that actually is for the NOVA program.
Okay.
Okay, NOVA vehicles. In the book, I think there's 7 of them in the one picture. You see 7 different types of NOVAs. You see the Apollo vehicle, it's over in the corner, it's a little tiny thing. Then you see these great big things that are 10 times the size of Apollos. Okay, those are all trucks. They're trucks to haul up boring machines for the moon, to bore into the moon, to find areas where we can do our construction of a 10,000-man naval operation and research base on the moon. That's what our Apollo program first phase is. Not just go to the moon and pick up the rocks. We were going to the moon to a program that actually operated, this is 1963, it was operational till 1999. Okay? The moon, the Apollo moon program. Okay, so always.
But it got stopped, and then it continued. I mean, it went black, I guess, is what happened.
Yeah.
But do you want some water?
Yeah.
Does anyone else want to take a short break?
The point I'm trying to get to is here that Northrop borrowed a bunch of money and bought TRW Space Systems, the #1 think tank on your planet.
Who gave you the green light?
I can't answer that. All I can say is that the easiest way for me to say what I'm saying is my association with 3 Nordic people in Douglas on the Apollo program. During World War II, Germany was taking extraterrestrial information and putting in production 12, 14 different extraterrestrial type vehicles. They're manufacturing them using slave labor. Almost 90% of that was taken out of Germany before the war even stopped. It was taken to Antarctica and is still operating there today.
That there are some positive artificial intelligence out there, but that we do have incoming races of beings that are actually artificially intelligent, you know.
Yeah, you can't even see them. Then they put the American flag up, okay? And then they start walking around taking their pictures. And all around the edge of the crater are all these great big things, which
So
are his statement, Armstrong. Sir, you've got to see these. They're massive. They're threatening. They're threatening us.
So, what I want to say again is you're saying everything was planned to 1999, and basically we were stopped at a certain point, and that's a very, you know, crisis point in your book, which is very exciting, but at the same time very disappointing to hear. So it's not surprising because in a sense the general public certainly thinks we never went back to the moon. That's what they had in their minds. Now I don't believe that. So it went black, in essence. Yes. And this gets into a whole nother area, but I'm going to ask you my question in a minute. So, Michael, you were just about to tell him in answer to his question, right?
We were talking about that. I also wanted to discuss, Bill, have you ever got a chance to meet Ben Rich?
No.
You didn't?
No,
okay.
I didn't. I wish I had.
Okay.
Because these beautiful people.
Do you think that Donald Douglas Sr. consulted with Kelly Johnson and secrets were traded? Do you think that's something that...
No question.
No question?
No question,
Can you
yes.
drill down on that a little bit?
Donald Douglas was far more important in this whole thing than people realize. I'm not trying to give him a big deal, but he certainly was. And so he, for instance, knew Northrop. And I want to sort of level out on Northrop, because remember, TRW systems that came on after all of this early program things, TRW came out of the Douglas think tank. That's where it came from. And so TRW then had what constituted, I worked there for a number of years, they had unlimited funds to literally study anything, okay, any subject you want. So the TRW staff, the president, and many of the top engineers were in the Douglas secret think tank before. And so not only did Douglas talked to TRW, but Douglas talked to Northrop. Douglas talked to Lockheed. These fellows were not exchanging information because they were competition with each other. But at a technical level, they talked together. And they then, like the first package that I flew to Lockheed in the valley there, was the first paper that Lockheed had, which formed the think tank. And so collectively, the information was individual for each of the companies that we flew packages to, but there was also coordination between, like Douglas Senior and the top people at Lockheed. And it's not that they were trading information, but they were at the same level diplomatically, and they communicated. And so Ben Rich, what he said before he passed away, I think is extremely important, because he, in one statement, he came up with what the real situation was. And he's leaving that with, okay, it's you guys' next move. It's your next move. This is what he's telling you. It's there. You can leave it, you can back off, or you can participate. I think those words were unreal, truthfully. That's sort of a box of the whole situation. And those guys in the skunk works at Lockheed were right on. Okay? Now, I did work for Lockheed 3 different times. One, I worked for Nav Space. I was working for Nav Space in a facility inside of Lockheed. I delivered documents to Lockheed, actually 4 times, and I worked for Lockheed 2 other times. I actually worked as a research wind tunnel model expert. Okay, so and that was the first time I actually worked for Lockheed. But I had delivered packages to Lockheed 10 years earlier, and so my participation with them was then different than my participation with Northrop, because I actually worked for Northrop for 2.5 years. And the point I'm trying to get to is here that Northrop borrowed a bunch of money and bought TRW Space Systems, the #1 think tank on your planet. Holy cats. I mean, this is wild. Northrop borrowed some money. They went to Virginia. They bought the U.S. Navy's shipbuilding company that builds aircraft carriers. The massive #1 facility on the planet that builds aircraft carriers. Now listen to this. What did they do that for? So they could take their engineers, crawl all over aircraft carriers, look at it, and figure out how to make a 790-foot aircraft carrier into a kilometer-long spacecraft carrier? What better tool could you buy? Wow. I think that when we address all of these things that the different people have done, it's mind-boggling. I mean, it really is. And you
Okay, well, what about Boeing?
Okay, Boeing is also involved with building
And Rockwell.
building spacecraft carriers. And Rockwell.
And also what we call, I'm going to say something here, because I worked on a very short-term assignment for, I think it was Boeing, and I was working for the top guy, and they were going to be designing these, I don't know if it's, I'm not good with this stuff, but, F-35 or whatever kind of plane.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, they designed a Starship Enterprise, and they took the whole division, and like in 2 weeks' time or less, and you know that aerospace, they move very slow normally, at least in the public domain. They packed everything up, and they shipped it all down to a location somewhere like Redondo Beach. I don't know where it was. Further south, like maybe even further south than Redondo Beach. And they took some of the employees, and I don't know about all. But, I mean, it happened so quickly. But I was working for the top guy, so I know that that's what they went to build.
Fabulous.
So.
Ties right in. Perfect. Yes.
Yeah, so you're right on it, and you know, and it was exciting because they were excited to be packing up and going to do this exciting new project, and I almost, you know, wished I could go with them, you know, but of course that wasn't my line of work.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, it's fascinating what goes on now. What you're basically describing, though, is a secret space program that went secret kind of like gradually in a certain way, because some of this stuff was out in the public domain, right?
Yes, it was, yes.
And yet the secrecy became more and more dense over the years. And I know a lot of people are puzzled by that. So have you got an evaluation or a critique of how the secrecy got so tight? Is it the infiltration of the reptilians and the fact that you've got Nordics on one side, reptilians on the other, influencing the program?
Well, that's one of the keys, yes. Yeah. And then you have the Dracos influencing the president of your country. So this...
Okay, so are we talking Eisenhower, Truman, who are talking, all of them?
Yeah, all of them.
Really?
All of them.
Yeah.
Okay? And all
I
with...
thought the president doesn't have any real power. Does he?
He has some power. Much of this was kept secret from that level, okay?
But MJ-12 is behind the scene, you know, orchestrating a lot of this as well. And you're saying this guy Douglas is part of MJ-12 in the early days.
Yeah.
Right. So he's very instrumental.
Yes, and actually for him to talk, you know, two of the Navy admirals and two of the Army Air Force generals to put together the most advanced study group on the planet and put it into a secret tank inside of Douglas Engineering. I mean, yes, it separated several years later, but Douglas put this together himself based on the Los Angeles event.
Right.
I mean, this is staggering.
Was Rand around during that time, or
no,
was that after?
Rand came out of the think tank.
Oh.
Actually, there was this divorce that I talked about in the book.
So TRW and Rand? Was it like that?
Well, Rand, because of manufacturing taking over all control of Douglas and removing it from Douglas Sr., okay, they did. And so they didn't want any of this extraterrestrial stuff in their company. They wanted to make airplanes. I don't want them even here. So them finding out about this secret thing blew the whistle. So RAND was formed inside the secret think tank at Douglas. And then there was this big divorce. The divorce took place roughly 8 months before I went to work in 1951. Okay, so they divorced. They used this building right in Santa Monica as their headquarters. But then RAND went worldwide, and if you go down to San Diego and you go out to Point Loma so you can get a view of San Diego, you go up to the top there where the view is. As you went out there, on your left side, underground, that's all RAND. On the right side is nav space, underground on both sides. You're there looking at San Diego. Right over here is all of this massive RAND thing, and all the way back on this side, nav space. You don't realize what came out of the Douglas think tank. How many years is this? That's 70 years ago. I mean, this is crazy.
Okay, but let's also talk about NASA a little bit.
Okay.
Because at a certain point, I mean, you're coming from Douglas. This is a aerospace, an aircraft company, and you're bringing changes to Apollo that affect NASA.
Yes.
Okay, and top dogs at NASA are Debus and von Braun, and they're Nazis.
Yes.
And they really were Nazis.
They were. They're SS.
And okay, so it appears from your book even that NASA is maybe the first place that's infiltrated by Nazis and that ideology.
Yes, that's correct. And so Paperclip was not just 10 or 12 German fellows coming here. It was a massive number of a tremendously massive organization that a little bit of it went to Moscow. All the rest went to Antarctica in those big caverns in Antarctica. You got 5%.
Meaning U.S.
U.S., yes.
Okay, but Britain got some.
Yeah, there's little bits. Okay,
Yeah.
Von Braun and Debus were both principals in that organization in Germany, and so you say, well, we got good ones. There were other good ones too that the Russians got, and many of them were still managing construction of extraterrestrial spacecraft carriers, which were being built underground in Germany during World War II. Okay?
You mean when they came to work for us, they were continuing?
No, during World War II, Germany was taking extraterrestrial information and putting in production 12, 14 different extraterrestrial type vehicles. They're manufacturing them using slave labor. Almost 90% of that was taken out of Germany before the war even stopped. It was taken to Antarctica and is still operating there today.
Right. New Berlin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unbelievable.
Right.
Unbelievable.
So is that why John Kerry went down to to Antarctica while we had a presidential election being held?
Okay.
Okay. Well, I have whistleblowers who've talked about Antarctica, and I've released information about this.
Now, I'm not a whistleblower, okay? I am simply an individual
You're
who has
sanctioned
been
by the military. That's a whole different ballgame.
Okay. All right.
You're coming from a completely different angle. Most of the people that I deal with have worked in a block top secret. Okay, I may even have worked with you or near you, but they have come out of the organization. Then they start talking. In some cases, violating their security agreements.
Okay, I don't know what that's all about, but I am just trying to put it aside.
I understand, but this is a radical change for the military to be actually bringing one of their own forward in this way. And I wonder if your enthusiasm is going to be catching? Are there going to be others like you?
This is what we're hoping will take place. That's what I'm hoping will take place, because the public needs to know about this. The country needs to know about it. The planet needs to know about what has taken place. And we've been lied to. I say this over and over. We've all been lied to for a minimum of 6,000 years. Every country, every European country, every Asian country.
Okay, but let's get into, and I apologize to you, but this is so important. Why do we need to know now? Because I get the feeling that you're actually coming forward at a critical time because of something coming.
Okay, you could say that. I could say, in my opinion, I hope that this is going to take place. Okay, I'm hoping
All
that
right.
that this will benefit release of this subject. That's my hope.
That's okay, but is, why are they choosing now? I mean, you were sitting around, you're really 93?
Yes.
So you were sitting around, I assume. I mean, you were a fantastically busy person building all these things and designing all these things, but at some point you must have sort of retired and been, less busy, yet less utilized by them. And you must have, even during the time you're writing your book, and I know that Bob Wood talked to you back in 2009, and I think there was some kind of interaction with you with some other reporters or somebody back in 2002 or something like that. And this is what was written in the back of your book. And yet, you basically had, the lid was on everything you were doing, and even Bob Wood didn't come forward with the interview he'd done with you back in 2009 until 1 year ago, almost 1 year ago to now, when somebody in the organization who's bringing you forward contacted, it appears, Michael Sala.
Okay, Michael Salas, he's done his homework. Okay, now, he's a nice guy too, but
Sure.
Through freedom of information, unlike many people, he has taken the time and taken all the hits of not releasing the information, okay, and then eventually getting substantiation for Admiral Rick Abada, before he took over Naval Air Station San Diego, okay? Mm-hmm. He went to Lockheed, he went to Douglas, and he went over to Northrop, he goes to North American. What is this all about? And 4 to 6 weeks later, Bill Tompkins takes packages to these people. What is this all about? That's now been verified through freedom of information that Michael Salas has got, and he's got a great deal more information. He's been pulling substantiation for the things we're talking about here, okay? Verifying it. And
okay, but that doesn't explain why it took you that long to come forward. Who gave you the green light at a certain juncture, approximately 1 year ago, to come forward?
Well, actually, it's not like what happened 1 year ago. That I don't even know what that answer is, because let's go back to the south part of Oregon and this Navy League Council that I set up in Oregon. And I had my ship models. I put them in the big mall. We could talk about it. There was an article in the paper that some people in downtown Medford, Oregon, were going to have a Navy League Council. And so I get the information in the paper, and then I have people calling us. I stood in the center of the mall 3 weekends. I had a little place there with documentation about the Navy League, and I got 70, 80 people within about 3 months, and we formed this Navy League Council.
Okay, what year was this?
This was 2009, 2007 time period, and I contact the commander, Naval Air Station, Naval Base, Washington, D.C., who's commander of Subgroup 9, the Boomer subs, and I talked to him, and I talked him into coming down to Medford, Oregon, in the big restaurant there, and throwing holy water on this new Navy League Council. And admirals don't do that. Admirals don't do that. Maybe a lieutenant does, or maybe a commander, or a lieutenant commander. Admirals don't do that, okay? Don't ask me how that happened. Somebody threw a little bit of whatever, and this admiral, who has a fantastic background himself on the subject,
So we talk
throws holy water on Navy League Council and the boondocks down
But
in...
are we talking Bobby Ray Inman at this point?
No, we're talking a different guy
Another one.
entirely.
A
Yeah,
different admiral.
yeah.
Can we know his name or not?
I'd rather not put it in now, but
right.
I'm just saying...
So
no,
you came up-
what I need to say to
Yeah.
you, and to help you in your understanding here, again, for whatever reason, I end up with some 70 retired naval top officers in this council, and you can't justify that in a boony town in southern Oregon that all is there is just chopping down logs.
All right.
Okay?
Okay.
Now, I can't give you the answer. I can't give you the answer of why just south of Medford there's a mountain. And there's a mountain there where all of these Navy officers, most of these Navy officers are in business, who they have their own airplanes. They fly all over the United States and Canada. They see UFOs coming south, coming from the east, going into the side of this mountain,
This isn't Mount Shasta, is it?
Mount Shasta.
It is. Okay.
And so they take their airplanes and they fly collectively, 7, 8, 9 planes, trying to find the door. And they don't find the door. And then, while they're doing this, 2 of them come out,
Right.
just next to them, fly right past their airplanes.
Pretty awesome.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. What did you say? So what are all these... How,
You know, look, you're in contact, even to this day, with Nordics. You're being influenced. You're being communicated with
Telepathically. Yes.
Okay, so that's what they did. They basically kind of telepathically said, "Hey Bill, this will be a great idea for you. You'll go down. You'll start this association, and if you build it, they will come." Right?
And they did.
Yeah.
Okay, and they did. But I can't justify. Okay? Why in the world would we have that many top off? One is at a Marine general.
Yeah.
We had 7 captains.
Well, I can help a little bit with this because as a psychic, whatever you want to call it, I can say that I did go to Shasta, and I was communicated with by the Telos people, who had told me it was extremely sad story about how the reptilians had taken over Shasta, and that their whole civilization was at risk. So they perhaps were sending out the, signal, and this was in 2010.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And so we're pretty close in dates here
Yeah.
as to when your thing happened.
So you were kickstarting the whole operation.
Right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And and that was very moving for me and very shocking. Very shocking. And it was evident also in the terrain. You could actually see there was a frequency fence of some kind that had been put up in that area that was actually killing the wildlife and
Yes.
the pine trees and everything. You could see everything was starting to die, which,
But I have to say, it's really almost laughable that you have all these Navy officers. They're all in business, which requires them to have an airplane. They fly. They're talking back and forth between their airplanes. One guy's coming east, the other guy's north, and one comes out of the mountain here, another guy comes in on the other side, and then actually when 2 of them are flying together, They come right out and go between the two airplanes. I mean, and then you say there's no UFOs, okay? I mean, to me...
well, I don't say there's
no. I'm being facetious.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
We collectively say there's no such thing as
I
extraterrestrial.
mean, it's, yes, of course, and that's back, back in the ABCs of this whole subject matter, but amazing stuff, really, it's just amazing, and so that does answer some of my question in that small way, of how this thing germinated to where we're now talking today. But Michael, I know this is jumping back a bit.
That's okay. That's all right. I'm okay.
Did you get your question answered about the moon?
Yeah, I think so. I want to just kind of get back on that really quickly. Bill, when Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin landed at Tranquility Base on July 20th of 1969, were they given foreknowledge of what they were going to find when they got there, or were they just flying blind and they saw?
They sort of had foreknowledge. Let me tell you why. Okay, we talk about these. You've heard their comments about, oh my gosh, there are other crafts out here. This is before you get to the moon. They're flying from here to the moon, and so then they describe some of these. Okay, one or two of the very large kilometer or 2 kilometer long spacecraft carriers came in from one side of the Apollo control module. So the Apollo's coming here, this vehicle is coming in like it's going to go exactly into the vehicle, our vehicle. And of course it makes the turn, and you essentially get the feeling you're being given the finger, okay? So you go on, you make your rotation around, you get all set up and to land. And so as you're landing from down behind the crater, these vehicles come up and park. Okay? Some of the guys come out and they stand there underneath on the edge of the crater. So we got 2 guys here and another guy still going around the planet up there, which he has to get back into. And they're doing their thing. Well, again, they didn't put the flag up first. They put up a Freemason flag, and then they got this great Freemason plaque, which they put down, and the Freemasons take over the moon, right? Okay, that's what the plaque is for.
With these reptilians watching.
Yeah. And so then they put the American flag up. Okay, and then they start walking around taking their pictures, and all around the edge of the crater are all these great big things, which
so
are his statement. Armstrong, sir, you've got to see these. They're massive. They're threatening. They're threatening us. Wow.
Did Neil Armstrong take motion picture film footage of these vehicles?
Yes.
He did?
Yeah.
Okay. And what do you think was the talk inside the command module when they redocked with Michael Collins? What do you think Buzz and Neil told Michael Collins? What was that discussion about?
Oh my God! Yeah. First of all, okay, really, because this is totally. Now, remember, we had sent up vehicles with cameras on them to go around the moon to try to figure out, all of the requirements, not only for the selection where the landing was going to be, but try to come up with some sort of a feel of what our situation was going to be when we got there. Okay, so that's all been going on before. So we have seen and we have photographed structures on the other side of the moon, and next to those structures, a ways away, are foundations of many different buildings that are there. So we've already photographed. We knew that.
Okay, well, I'm going to go back even further than that, though, because we know the Nazis had been to the moon, right?
Yeah.
You admitted that, and not only that, but one of my witnesses, Mark Richards, is Captain Mark Richards from the Secret Space Program, from Space Command. He is a Navy, he was a Navy officer on the side of the Navy, and he was, I don't know if you've ever heard of one of the craft that he was famous for flying, which is called Minerva, which is an artificially intelligent craft. Vehicle that very few people can apparently even interact with, let alone drive.
Yeah.
So he's in prison in Northern California because he's, I guess, he's been framed for murder, and he's the enemy of the reptilians who are in office and Dracos. But he said that by the 60s and early 60s, we had a base on the moon, even though we'd been told no, we couldn't.
Okay.
And he said that's because Curtis LeMay wouldn't take no for an answer.
Could be. I don't know.
That sounds a lot.
You don't know about that.
No, I don't know.
Okay.
But that could be possible.
All right.
Okay.
And he read your book because I sent it to him, and he said it lines up with everything he knows.
Okay. I'm sorry he's in prison.
Yeah, well, I think that, you know, with your revelations, maybe someone could actually turn some keys somewhere and get him out.
Yeah.
You know, he's almost an elderly man at this point. He's in his late 60s, I think.
Oh, okay.
Not as old as you.
Yeah.
But he was chosen the same way you were, he said, when he was very young.
Well, that's where I was trying to get back to him, that it's not just one or two people that are selected, okay? There's hundreds and hundreds of these people actually all over the planet. There's Russians too, and there's Chinese. And so, but unfortunately, not making this nice, some are on their white hats, and we like them, but we've got a lot of people with black hats that are selected to implement whatever. And this is a real problem. And you can't cover this part of it up and just say, I don't believe that, okay?
Oh, yeah.
We are stuck with situations, plural, not one, but situations with which we don't have control over. And we are being used, we have been being used, and I hate to say this, but we're just a laboratory for them. Stop and think, that's not your moon, this is not your planet, and they own the planet, and we are their lab. We're their laboratory, and they're associates laboratories, other extraterrestrials coming in, doing their agenda.
Yes. And this has been going on for eons, and we know about this, but I have to say, there is a reason for all of this, and I want to get to this idea that the Nordics are coming here. Mark said the same thing to me. Around the same time you're releasing this, he was saying to me, on my one-on-one interview with him in prison, I go to interview him in prison, I've done it 5 times now, and he said, the Nordics want the humans to come up to speed militarily and in terms of consciousness, etc., so that they can join the fight against the reptilians and Dracos that are basically plundering the galaxies, taking over planets, etc. And you've said something very similar to that.
Yeah, I have to agree with that. I'm just saying that this is our situation, and it's.
And our military is very aware of this, and so what they've been doing is funneling what we call black project money, billions, into building this secret space program that's now practically what we call a rogue civilization. It's almost living so far in advance of the way we live in terms of technology and in terms of everything else.
Okay. Adding to that, you have solar warden. People don't believe that we have solar warden. Okay.
I believe it.
Okay, but it is 8 Navy space battle groups with destroyers, cruisers, other vehicles, support vehicles, transports, trucks, all kinds of stuff. They're operating off of Nordic bases, okay? Their families, their children live in Nordic facilities. They go to Nordic restaurants for food. Just like the 6 people in Lockheed, which are here, working, or they have their own facilities in an area in Burbank. Those 6 fellows have wives and children. They're in the public schools there. They go to restaurants and they
nobody
go.
knows their
And
names.
the manager of that 6 group, they have their own mission, which again is talking about this region of the galaxy, this arm, and so they could just as well have been on board the moon facilities, but they're local. And yes, once in a while they help the skunk works, but that's not their job. They're not contracted. And okay, he lives 3,700 comparable years, and so do the children, the wife. Okay, the children go to the schools, but every hour they put in class, they're being taught telepathically their own information, because they can finish a 4-year college degree by 9 years old.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and they're right here in Burbank. Now, yes, we've got all this other stuff out there too that's being operated in the same manner, and those people are they're not necessarily here as a contract to help Lockheed, but yes, they do once in a while talk with the skunk works, make side issues, make side suggestions.
Okay, but what about you? Because you're 93 years old. Were you not offered to live 3,000 years, or did you? What's your relationship with them? Are they just giving you upgrades so you lasted even this long, or are they gonna allow you to leave the Earth and leave this body, this vehicle, and go back and join them?
Let's talk for a minute about extended life.
Yeah.
Okay? Now, extended life didn't start here in the United States last week. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
Extended life was even implemented into the information that the Draco reptilian group educated some of the German people. So,
no doubt about it.
yeah. Now, so again, you say, well, what's extended life? Extended life was heavily involved in the secret think tank inside of Douglas. Okay, another subject. But then at TRW, where I worked later on, it was a really big program. I mean, really big program with hundreds of people involved. Okay?
But even before that, the Nazis were reverse aging people.
Yes.
I have a witness about that who actually said Werner von Braun was one of them.
Okay, I've heard that. I don't know that.
All right. Never mind.
Dr. Debus, all I got was he shaked his head. So I don't know that when that came up.
Shaked his head no or yes?
No. So maybe he was, I don't know.
Right.
All
Well,
But-
why would they tell us?
Yeah, but
okay.
whatever. And I spent a lot of time with that whole week with essentially the number one guy managing NASA. Okay?
Right.
Von Braun was supposedly the head of everything. Debus was the real head of everything.
Okay.
Okay, back to extended life. As it is sort of addressed today, what you do is you take an aspirin-sized pill, one every month for 4 months, okay? Or it could be an injection. Immediately you start feeling much better, okay? Immediately you start feeling much better. At the end of, or probably way before 4 months, the guys revert back to the latest number is 29. I've heard 23, I've heard all different dates, but say you go back to 29. So you've got everything physically that you had at that age, muscular, everything. And the young ladies go back to 21, okay? You have everything that you had at that point, plus you have a minimum of 400% greater capability of your brain, okay?
Okay, so that you have said that on other shows. Now I want to know, again, what's their relationship with you? Are you going to take one of those pills one of these days?
I want to sign up for the program.
You do?
Yeah, I want to sign up with a program. I want my wife to sign up for
Okay.
it. I want my son to sign up. I want my daughter and their families to sign up, okay?
But is there a but in there somewhere, or is that fine, or have you gotten okay on that? Or?
I haven't been able to sign up yet,
Oh.
okay? But I'm just saying that's a very real program. It has accomplished both men and women to move partway back, not the full 400% of the mind, but like 350, okay? The plan is 400% maximum, maybe 800% greater use of the brain. Obviously, what the Nordics are already using, okay, because the Nordic guys and girls go to 3,400 years. Come on, comparable years. So this is, again, part of our problem here, because we're being taught by the reptilians lies. We're being taught incorrect information, even incorrect astronomy.
Yes.
Everything is incorrect.
Yeah.
This is insane.
Okay, but one footnote. The Anunnaki that Zecharia Sitchin talked about, the Anunnaki are these reptilians, are they not, in
Yes.
most cases?
Yeah.
But there are some positive Anunnaki, are they not? Aren't there? In other words, that have started to change their ways, let's say.
Yes. And we got these blue people, too. They got a little hair on their legs, but they're nice people, okay? They're helping.
So
And
they're very tall.
yes.
Yes.
And but
I've been in touch with them as well. In
Cool.
India.
wonderful. They're good people.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
But we're just talking about 2s and 3s here. We've got, documented 23 different types of extraterrestrials, most of them being good people, okay? But then we've got these massive capability with facilities of the Draco extraterrestrial side that, they're controlling. And they don't just control this planet, we're just one of their planets that they
Is
control.
Mars under their rule or not? Because I know we have bases on Mars,
Yeah,
right?
yes.
And so I one of the whistleblowers out there says there are wars going on because there are different bases on Mars between those bases.
Okay, and yes, many people, including myself, have watched partial wars with vehicles diving on top of other vehicles from the coast right here, halfway between Long Beach and Catalina Island.
Oh, sure.
4, 5 o'clock in the afternoon. 2008, 2009, both. Okay? Watched them both.
One of my witnesses was killed. He was the guy who ran iPod.org. It's a website that was out there, and he had set up a camera on his balcony and filmed wars at night over the skies in LA and off the coast.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
And eventually they killed him.
Yeah.
Now, of course, it's the Dracos or whoever that killed him, right?
Yes.
So let me just ask you, do you feel that you're psychic enough to look at someone and know if they're Draco or not, or reptilian and shapeshifted?
I have said that I don't have that ability. I at times pick it up.
Right.
Okay? But I don't have that expertise.
Okay.
But I can, for some reason, I know that SOB that was right down the hallway, right here when we came in, could be a problem.
Oh, wow.
And I don't know why he was down the hall. We sort of were on the run to get in here because you wanted to get started. Sure. I saw him. Okay?
That's good.
And I don't know what that was.
Yeah. No,
He knew you were here.
Yes. Oh, come on. We're so surveilled. It's crazy.
Yeah. No.
Well, I want to talk about AI as well. And I don't know if we're completely done with this reverse aging idea.
Well, I think it's far enough to say that that's real.
Yes.
That within supposedly less than 24 months, that program is going to be available to some people. Now, if you have enough money and if you have enough facilities, maybe you can get on the list first. Okay? I don't know how that's going to work.
Right. Well, there's also a spiritual component to all of this that we haven't really dealt with yet. But I also, I have so many questions, and I know that you probably have a few. So I want to give you some time. So at a certain point, we got to manage our time.
Okay.
So one last question in regard to this whole sort of scenario in, Draco, reptilians, etc. Mark Richards talks about the raptors as being a group of reptilians that went off planet after the dinosaurs. When they said that dinosaurs went extinct, they didn't actually go extinct. But a certain group of them, from what I understand, went underground and stayed here. And then a certain group actually left the planet. And they're called the raptors. Have you ever heard about the raptors?
I've only heard what you've just said. Okay,
and that they have aligned themselves now with our Navy and Air Force. They're closest to the Air Force, and that they're working with us because their queen was basically told, in essence, that their trajectory of their race would be more positive if they align themselves with humans in a positive way instead of continuing to eat us.
Okay, I guess I don't know that. I'm not familiar enough with it.
But you do know that reptilians and Draco, the blood sacrifices, the whole Luciferian thing, the kids being killed and eaten, that humans have been eaten and taken off planet, et cetera, and used for slaves in other colonies, etc.
I hate to say that, but that's far worse than what you've just said.
It's far worse.
Yes, far worse.
Far worse, yeah.
And that the whole blood situation is it's unbelievable, and
right.
I don't know how we say that to the public. I don't know how. Wait a minute, just a second. On that part of this whole subject, to me, if we get into that, and I know all about it, okay?
All right.
Far more than you know.
Sure,
all right?
I'm sure.
When we get into that, if we release it, 70–80% of everybody that listens to your program is going to say, "You're smoking pot. I don't believe that, and I don't believe anything you people talk about on extraterrestrial." And it's going to kill what disclosure is trying to do. That's my opinion.
But you know the pedophilia is starting to be exposed everywhere. You know that much is coming out.
Oh, yeah. But you know the part that I don't want to talk about.
I hear you.
Okay?
Yeah. Saying as much as you said right now is actually great.
Okay?
You know what I mean?
Yes.
Because you basically are, anyone who's hearing everything else you say is going to have to come to home with this. And if they want to know more, it's out there. It's more and more, it's out there.
Yeah. Now, I'm not going to speak for Bob, but Bob Wood, Dr. Wood, who's worked with me on my book, okay?
Yes.
He's a genius. If we were in the conference room and we were talking and there was a big table there, he would have his fist like this and he would slam that table. "I want every GD thing exposed. I want it all
Good
out."
for him. That's lovely to hear.
And I have to say, I'm having a hard time disagreeing with him, but
Well, we could do another interview on that subject so that, you know, this one, it goes out, because I know you really want this information out. You want people to start to wake up, and we don't want to turn them off to any...
we don't want, you just said
degree.
it, we don't want them to be turned off. We don't want them to not believe what's being said. Okay?
I know, but
and this,
yeah, it's...
and some, we can get into it partially, but I'm saying, I personally don't want to be involved in doing what Bob wants to do. It's too heavy. I think it's going to really hurt getting more people to get involved in this subject. Okay, they're going to say that Bill Tompkins is smoking pot. I don't believe one damn word. I don't want to hear about any of this. Okay,
Yeah.
I don't want to hear about it.
I understand. Let me say, because I have interviewed people about these subjects and dealt with this and Mark Riches is very open about it.
Yeah.
Interestingly, but he's in prison, and so they think he's got plausible deniability, says no one's going to believe someone who's in prison. You know what I'm saying?
Sure.
So that's how they allow that to happen. But I do want to say my philosophy on this, which is humans are not protecting themselves. They're not protected. And so if you don't warn them, you're culpable. The next time somebody gets snatched and eaten or taken away, or their child, and I'm more concerned about the children, obviously, than anything else.
That's
you know.
That's it. Well, that's what.
And so that's my statement. My statement is, I care about the children, and I want to protect the children. How can you protect a child? You must tell them. You must tell their parents what's happening, what's really going on this planet, and it's about time we humans are able to protect ourselves. There's a lot of New Agers out there who want nothing but to believe that there's ETs, definitely, but they're all hearts and flowers and good guys.
Right. Yes.
And this is such a dangerous thing to put out there, because again, you get humans that will not be able to protect themselves.
That's
and also not understand. Some people get the wrong idea about Camelot, but I'm actually in favor of the military. I know it sounds crazy, but I actually understand that we have a lot of military that are putting their lives on the line in a daily basis to protect humans that have absolutely no idea that they're in danger.
You're right. Absolutely. I agree.
And that's got to change.
Yeah, it's got to change.
Yeah. So, I realize that people have no idea what a brave man you are.
Oh.
You are, I just wanted this statement made on my interview here, that the courage that it takes to actually do what you're doing right now is phenomenal. Really it is. See, I can get away with this because I'm a journalist and I can say anything and people will say, she's crazy, and just not listen. But someone with your stature you know, with your reputation and your documentation and where you were and where you come from and all of that, this is substantial. I don't think people can ignore you. I don't think they can.
Well, I sure hope they don't, because frankly, we need help.
Yeah.
We need everybody involved in this. That's not a lie. We need help.
Yes, absolutely. So at this moment, what I want to do is I'm going to get back to AI at a certain point, but I want Michael to ask any questions he's burning questions that you have right now.
Okay, that's fine. Bill, let's switch gears here, but we're still on the same topic of naval programs. What was the primary mission of the 1946 naval program known as Operation High Jump, and what really happened?
Very interesting. Essentially, the World War II had ended. We didn't win. It's just sort of ended. And the Navy had been involved with the German facilities in Antarctica and the Draco reptilian facilities in caverns in the Antarctica. And this program was well accepted. And then when paperclip took place, this is where many of the German elite technical people left Germany and went to their facilities in Antarctica. Some of them went to Russia, some went to England, and a large number of them, Von Braun and Dr. Debus and their people, came to the United States. So there's an admiral called Admiral Nimitz, and he got with another Navy admiral, and they formed the largest U.S. Navy battle group that we had ever had, with the number of ships and the number of facilities, personnel. There was over 400 airplanes involved. Many of them were enormous flying boats, PB-3s, TBFs, which were all in this battle group that went to our South Pole to clean up the mess down there, okay? There are large tunnels underneath the water all around Antarctica where the Germans, with very, very large truck submarines, had been taking facilities from Germany to Antarctica, the facilities in Antarctica. So everybody said, we got paperclip here in the United States, but you don't realize that 60–70%, even slave labor personnel, were put in these submarines and taken back to Antarctica through these big tunnels to very large facilities. So yes, there were extraterrestrial UFOs there too, and there were some production German UFOs also. So when we got within what you would call battle range of Antarctica, we had already flown half of our aircraft to the other side of Antarctica with the facilities to enter the mainland from the other side. We were going to come in from essentially the Pacific side. So UFOs came up out of the ocean at both sides. They eliminated every aircraft, including all of the helicopters. flying boats. Every aircraft we had were eliminated in about 20 minutes. We had already started operations, landing type operations. And those ships and all those personnel were sunk. They ended up going to the bottom of the ocean off of the coast. So Admiral Byrd and Admiral Nimitz, with the tail between their legs, took off back to the United States as fast as they could go, okay? And never went back. A little bit like going to the moon and never coming back, okay? So that mission obviously failed to do any damage because they were supposed to go out there, pick up a bunch of prisoners, bring them back, and then blow up all of the facilities with this massive U.S. Navy battle group. And we didn't do that. We came back and we're not going to do that again. I think that basically says what the mission was and what happened, okay? And essentially, you haven't gone back again since, and you probably never will. So you don't have the capability to fight the Draco-Reptilian technical capabilities.
But there are people going there.
Yes.
There are military going there.
Yes.
And they have also a telescope there that's supposed to be specially stationed to look for the incoming of Planet X or Nibiru or whatever.
Well, they have a facility there like you have, your Air Force has at the Offutt Air Force Base in Omaha, Nebraska. There's a picture, a drawing that I made in the front of the book where it shows the command center, which is not a command center. What it is, it's a receiving center for information in this part of the galaxy,
right,
for us. And then you have a separate command center that the Air Force has in that big mountain range. But the one we're talking about is like the Dracos have that the SS still uses, which is in Antarctica, and it's a controlling area of incoming vehicles that are not German or primarily not reptilian Draco-type facilities. They could be Nordic, and they don't want the Nordics there. So that telescope facility also has much greater capability than any telescope that we have, and we just had in the last couple of 3 months found out that there are 2 trillion galaxies out there. Wow. So we got better capability as far as we're concerned. The ones that the Draco reptilian have in Antarctica is much bigger than that. Wow.
Okay, but how is it that the humans are they do go down there? Are you saying that the ones that are allowed down there are Draco or reptilian, or are you saying that they allow them to come and go because that's some kind of treaty or arrangement?
Well, it's just a arrangement between what was left of the SS and the people that are working in Germany on extraterrestrial vehicles. They have them in production. Still. Today. And you went down there to clean that up, and you didn't win that battle. So there's still communication with even humans from here to Antarctica, and you have Draco reptilian guys running your governments of every country on your planet.
Every government. There you go.
Wow.
That's quite a statement.
Does that answer your question?
I'm sorry. It's not what we want to hear.
No.
Okay.
Not at all. okay, everyone who watches this is going to want me to ask you about Nibiru, the return of Nibiru, Marduk. You know who Marduk is, and Anu, and all of that. These are the head Anunnaki. Do you think that are you able to talk about a return of a planet, or is it a planetoid? Is it a Dyson sphere?
I'm going to have to say I'm not familiar enough, other than the title, with that operation. So, frankly, I can't help.
Okay.
That's not my area.
All right.
And I know about it, but I know of it.
Okay, have you been told, let me ask you this, Mark Richards says we're about to start Earth changes in a sort of a more major way. What I notice about Earth changes is a lot of times they're orchestrated and they're created by men or Dracos or reptilians, and that they're supposed to start here at the beginning of 2017. And Camelot was always told I've been doing this for over 10 years, that 2017 was sort of the kickoff date for a lot of so-called Earth changes. So
okay.
Have you heard that?
Let me talk a little bit about a different involvement of that.
All right.
Okay. I had a cousin is Walter Handon in our family here, who was 3 years older than me, about the same age as my brother. And after, say, 1933 time period, we were just kids living in Hollywood. Walter's house he was the only child. His dad worked for the railroad and didn't make much money. And so they rented a house in Hollywood, which is what we did. Nobody had any money. And so they didn't have any landscaping in the front or the back of the yard. So we kids would, in the afternoon, after school, we'd get together and dig holes in the dirt in the backyard. And
now you told this story on Walter Noasad's interview, right?
Yes.
So that's where you're going with this. So to save some time, can we cut to the chase a little further and ask people to watch Walter's to get more of this? But you can sketch it out, but don't go in much detail as you did with Walter.
Okay. So my cousin Walter became a geophysicist, astrophysicist, was later Dean of Texas M down in Houston. One of the 5 top astrophysicists, I guess, in the country. And so he continued to come to California, and he would stay with us. We were living in San Fernando Valley, and I was working at TRW, and he was a consultant to TRW. And so TRW had astronomy and every other technical field going, with many different sub-laboratories working on it. And so we were very, very aware of the problems geologically with planet Earth. And this gets into not just Noah's problem, where he had the flood and he took care of it quite well, but there had been 7 floods since Noah's flood. And one of those was really bad. But what takes place here, and it's a little hard to visualize, way back, the planet only had one continent. And as we know, those continents Well, the planet was trying to fix its uneven rotation. So the planet separated into different continents. So what's taking place since then, on every so many years since that took place, two major things take place. Well, three, I'm sorry. One is that every so many years, the planet has literally dozens and dozens of volcanoes all running at the same time from Alaska down the Pacific coast to the Pacific coast of South America.
They're Ring of Fire, what's called.
And they have these continuous volcanoes all going. Fouls up the atmosphere on the planet to where a lot of people don't make it. A lot of fish don't make it. Now, then separately, we have this situation where we have earthquakes. Some of these are really bad. Then the third thing is the real problem. Today, as we're talking, the Pacific plate is climbing up on top of the American plate, which would be United States, and it's getting ready to push it down into the magma. And the same thing will happen in South America too. It'll climb up over South America and push the Andes and everything on down into the magma. So not too many people live through these kinds of events. So essentially, planet Earth is not a really choice place to live from the geology standpoint. We know that there are hundreds of million galaxies out there. We know that there's millions and millions of stars in our own galaxy, and that there are millions and millions of other planets which are at supposedly the right location out from the star, not too close in, not too far out, rotating, which produce unbelievably 2 and 3 and 4 times the size of Earth, total Utipides, unbelievable planets, unbelievable atmosphere, gorgeous places to live, okay? So when the people in the secret think tank inside of Douglas were doing their studies, they came up with a thrust to review the geology of the planet, confirm the situations with the support of the Nordics of moving people off of the planet to other stars, planets that the Nordics are very, very aware of, and live their utopian lives. Okay? So when you look on page so-and-so in that book that I wrote, Selected by Extraterrestrial, you're going to see a detailed drawing of a 17-kilometer-long space transport, which came out of one of the many designs of extraterrestrial-type vehicles for the U.S. Navy. Okay? Now you have to ask the question, what's the relationship of the geological part of the planet and the fellows that were studying our problem here, which of course was extraterrestrial, but then it's also geological. Wow. And so these two things were put together a long time ago. And yes, you got nice suggestions by your cousins, the Nordics. Look into this, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, look at it. Take a real good look at where you live, and what is the next date for either one of the three problems to hit us again?
Okay.
Oh my goodness.
What is it?
We're overdue.
We're overdue for that day.
unquote.
Okay.
Now, my cousin, Walter Handon, was in on everything that I just said. He was the top expert to the most advanced astronomical space think tank on the planet. Okay?
So is he still alive?
No, he passed away quite a few years ago.
Oh.
Real nice guy.
Right.
He and I brought this stuff back and forth just continually. And for him to be consultant of the company that I'm working for, you know, that was really beautiful for me.
Well, may I ask why, like, can the Nordics help somebody like that before they die, or is that a choice?
I
Or
think...
are you sure he died and didn't just go to another planet?
Okay. There again, a lot of people don't believe that they have many lives. Okay? Some have more than others.
Oh,
okay?
yeah, absolutely. I
But
believe
we
it.
don't just die here and that's it.
Sure.
Okay? And we've got a whole lot of other stuff we got to do. Okay? And so TRW, again, in their programming on that particular subject, actually told John Walter almost the date that he was going to step out,
Oh, okay.
and told him which of 7 different previous lives he was going to relive. New versions of.
Oh, uh-huh.
And I thought that was kind of cool.
Right.
Now, I can't prove that. I'm only saying this is what he tells me.
Well, it makes
And,
sense.
and I'm saying that I personally, my wife and I, our family believes that, you know, this is only part-time here. You got a real job out there.
Sure.
And so there's got to be that relationship, yes.
Absolutely. Okay. Very
In
good.
fact, you're going to have a lot of fun in another one of yours. I know that.
You do?
Really, you're going to have a ball.
Okay. So what I want to say here is about artificial intelligence. Because when I dealt with Mark, we know the reptilian and the Draco threat and all of that.
Yes.
And other ET races as well, of which there are many that are still, you know, negatively, what I would call negatively based. And maybe as big a threat as they are. The chromaton comes to mind, the dragon moss, and there is also some other very diabolical creatures that even the Draco and the reptilians fear,
Yes,
from what I hear.
yes, that's correct.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right. And what about artificial intelligence? Isn't that a threat? I mean, I was told by Mark that there are some positive artificial intelligence out there, but that we do have incoming races of beings that are actually artificially intelligent, you know.
Yeah, you can't even see them.
There are some invisible ones, yes, he
Yeah,
said that.
you can't even see them. Intelligence.
So you've dealt with this?
Yes,
Yeah?
no question. And maybe not 1 or 2, maybe like thousands.
Oh, really?
Okay, with agendas.
Yes.
And unfortunately, again, both pro and con.
Right.
White hats and black hats.
Yes.
And some of them are essentially supporting Draco reptilian type of missions,
Sure.
and some of them are helping Nordic and the blue people. Okay, the blue guys are really good people, really.
Yeah,
they're
I thought that. Okay. Yes, I agree with that. So,
you know. Wait a minute. This little dissertation right here
yes.
has been fun for me.
Oh, good.
I'm like having fun
Excellent.
with you hitting on me. With this, you're trying to bang me. You're trying to hit me over the head. And really, you know so much about this subject. It's unreal.
Oh, that's
I just have to say, I have to say,
well, coming from you, that's what I'm saying.
no, I have to say, you're beautiful. You really know what's going on.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Really.
Well, you know who I have to thank.
Okay.
So I'm not going to take all the credit there. But thank you. That's lovely
Yes.
to say. Thank you very much. Okay. What are we on time?
What time did you want to get out of here? It's 2 o'clock.
It's 2 o'clock. Okay. So we have kept you for a very long time.
Okay.
I can wrap this up here. I think
Okay.
maybe this is plenty of time for a person of your age, even
Okay.
though you're not always going to be this
Yeah.
age.
Yeah.
I get
Right.
that. But so I guess cameras are still rolling, and I guess we should wrap this up. And I want to say thank you
I
very
love
much.
you. Love you.
Love you, and
Okay.
thank you for your
Yeah.
service to humanity.
Okay.
Okay?
Appreciate it.
And I mean that from the bottom of my heart and the top of my heart. And Michael, thank you so much.
Yeah.
I
Thank
know
you,
you've
Michael.
been a bit slighted, but your presence
Yeah.
has been very welcome.
Thank you.
And we'll try to do this again sometime
Okay.
if you're willing.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, you did a
No,
lovely job.
I was having fun. Come on.
It looked like it.